You are live, Mr. Chair.
Right on. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Call the meeting to order. And first of all, I'd like to welcome everyone here. This is our first virtual Community Council meeting, and it's a learning experience for all of us, and I suppose those who are watching as well. So we'll take a roll call. Councillor Mason. Okay, we're still waiting on way. Councillor Smith.
I'm here, ready for action.
Right on. Councillor Cleary.
On board, sir.
Right on. Councillor Walker.
Here, also ready for action.
And Councillor Zarowski.
I am here. How much action is going to happen? I'm not certain, but I'm here.
Well, that'll be determined. How's that? And welcome, Councillor Paul Russell. Approval of the minutes for March 11th, 2020, and the special May 14th and June 17th meeting in 2020.
Councillor Cleary, so moved.
Moved by Councillor Cleary.
Second by Smith.
Seconded by Councillor Smith. Question on the motion, all in favor?
Aye.
Contrary minded, motion is carried. Madam Clerk, do we need to go through the roll for our other votes, or I know this one is procedural, but the other ones, do we need to go through each individual for a yay or a nay?
No, you can vote in block for the minutes.
Beautiful. And but other items, we still have to go one at a time.
For your additions, yeah, I can speak to that. There is the addition of 713 case 21730 development agreement for 205 Bedford Highway, Halifax. Okay. And in accordance with Administrative Order 1, Section 10 around special meetings of council, it is subject to approval of all members of the Community Council, whether present or not. We have received written confirmation from all members that they are agreeable to this addition.
Beautiful. Okay. So we will ask for approval of the order, or first of all, are there any other added items? No, none from Madam Clerk and none from our members. I'll take a motion to approve. Given that,
Mr. Chair, Councillor Cleary move to approve the order of business.
Thank you, Councillor Cleary. Councillor Walker. So the approval of the order of business moved by Councillor Cleary, seconded by Councillor Walker. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Right on. Contrary minded, motion is carried. Declaration of conflict of interest.
Mr. Chair, it's Councillor Cleary here. I obviously have a conflict with public hearing 5.1, so I'll be signing off at that time.
Okay. Any others? Hope they're not too many, because we wouldn't have quorum. Madam Clerk, any word on Councillor Mason?
Oops, sorry, I have not received any updates at this point.
Okay, and members of Community Council aware?
Nope.
No? Nope. Okay. Okay, I thought there might have been an email sent, but I'm not certain about that. So, okay, well, it is 5 past. This was scheduled for 6 o'clock. We will start the public hearing. 5.1.1 is case 22462, development agreement for the expansion of an existing daycare at 6583 Quimple Road in Halifax. And before we go to this, I'd just like to thank everyone for joining us today for our first Community Council, Halifax and West Community Council virtual public hearing. The order of events for this virtual hearing will be the same as a regular public hearing. We'll start with a staff presentation, give the applicant an opportunity to present via telephone, and then normally we would go to the public hearing and the speakers list. However, there were no speakers who have signed up for this. And in general, in order to be eligible to speak, you would have to sign up before 4:30 the day previous. And again, as I said earlier, there are no speakers that have registered for this particular public hearing. So, Mr. Robertson, you ready? You're just on mute there, my good man.
There we go.
Beautiful.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I am ready to go. So, good evening, Chair and Council. I'm Cameron Robertson, planner for case 22462, development agreement for expanded daycare uses at 6583 Quimpool Road. A quick outline of the presentation I'll be giving tonight. I'll give an overview of the proposal, provide site context, outline the relevant policy, provide an overview of the public engagement, outline the development agreement, and provide staff's recommendation. Next slide, please. The application has been made by Michelle and Sean Cleary for their daycare facility, Maple Tree Montessori, at 6583 Quimpool Road, Halifax. This request is to enter into a development agreement to expand the facility from 14 children permitted under the zoning bylaw to 20 children. This is an increase of 6 spaces. Next slide, please. The site is located on the Halifax Peninsula at the intersection of Quimpool Road and Poplar Street. Next slide, please. The property is a single detached dwelling with a facility operating from the ground floor. The outdoor play area is located along Poplar Street and functions as the dwelling's rear yard. Next slide, please. The site is zoned R1, single-family residential, within the Halifax Residential Environment designation. The existing daycare is permitted through the land use bylaw and can have up to 14 children as of right. The enabling policy for consideration of expansion through development agreement is implementation policies 3.20 and 3.20.1. Next slide, please. As I've stated previously, this property has been designated residential under the Halifax MPS. Next slide, please. This property is zoned R1 at this time and is located within an R1, R2 neighborhood. However, it should also be noted that this site is currently located next to Center Plan Package A lands, which are zoned corridor. Next slide, please. The residential environment policies for the Halifax municipal planning strategy enable alternative commercial uses such as daycares and home occupations. This is enabled through and regulated through the land use bylaw, which permits a facility of up to 14 children at facilities on the peninsula. However, the land use bylaw includes a provision to allow council to consider, by development agreement, a daycare facility which would not otherwise be permitted due to zoning requirements. Implementation policies 3.20 encourage the establishment of childcare centers and allows the consideration of individual locations which may not meet the applicable land use bylaw through development agreement. As noted previously, the R1 zone permits a daycare facility for not more than 14 children. Next slide, please. Policy 3.20.1 sets out the aspects that are considered when an application for a daycare development agreement is made. This slide shows a high-level version of policy 3.20.1. The policy has been satisfied as A, no renovations or alterations are proposed to the building, B, the hours have been set in the development agreement, C, all staff parking is contained on site and screened from neighboring properties, D, the site has landscaping and existing 4-foot fence. The development agreement also calls for a minimum of a 1.5 meter screening if approved. E, the site access has been reviewed and is satisfied. F, there is no signage on the site and any sign would be directed to comply with the land use bylaw. G, no concentration will be created by modifying the existing daycare. And H, all citywide policies have been satisfied in this application. Next slide, please. We sent 65 mailouts to the community and October 28th, 2019 held a PIM with one member of the public in attendance. At the PIM, the member of the public had a question regarding signs and home-based businesses, but no comments on the actual application. The email and call that were received were from a neighboring property owner who is in favor of the expanded use, however, expressed that they would like consideration to be made for additional screening around the backyard to provide some buffering from the outdoor play space. This has been discussed with the applicant and it has been agreed to. A clause has been included in the development agreement to give the development officer some discretion on the implementation of this. However, the screening must be a minimum of 1.5 meters of either dense vegetation or opaque fencing, specifically notes the neighboring property. Next slide, please. The PAC recommended, without significant discussion, that the Halifax and West Community Council proceed with the development agreement. Next slide, please. Summary of the key aspects of the proposed development agreement. The development agreement allows for a daycare of not more than 20 children on the main floor, with the existing residential dwelling occupying the second and third floors. The development agreement also recognizes the existing second dwelling unit contained within the basement and will allow any uses as permitted by the applicable land use bylaw. The development agreement has set the hours of operation in the daycare to be between 6:30 and 7 p.m. and the development agreement requires a 1.5 meter opaque fence or dense vegetative buffering in the rear yard to provide screening from the neighboring properties. Next slide, please. The non-substantive amendments within the agreement are to grant an extension to the date of commencement and to consider any changes to signage requirements. Next slide, please. At this point, staff would recommend that the Halifax and West Community Council approve the proposed agreement as set out in Attachment A of the staff report dated February 5th, 2020.
Thank you, Mr. Robertson. Councillor Walker has a question.
Yes, on the fence at the back, is it going to be soundproof or a fence and vegetation?
It provides for one or the other. The neighboring property owner had kind of requested that there be a bit more substantial fencing and screening just between the two properties with the increase in children so that they're able to be outdoors throughout the kind of early time in the spring when the weather gets nice and into the fall when the daycare picks operation up again. So there won't be any sound buffering other than just what will be provided with either the vegetation or the fencing.
And when it says opaque fence, what does that mean? You can't see through?
Yeah, essentially. So it'd have to be like abutted boards or something like that. It couldn't be a 6 foot tall chain link fence.
And there's no way we could put both or just one or the other?
It does include one or the other. It can be a combination of both. That is specified in the agreement.
So could the agreement be changed to put both, a fence and vegetation, or?
It could be, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Cameron. Are there any other questions for our staff? Okay, so we'll open the public hearing and invite the applicant. Is the applicant available to speak?
I'm here.
Oh, beautiful. Okay. Are you calling by phone or video?
I am calling by phone.
Okay, perfect. So if you could just give us your name, and I'm guessing, I think I know your address, but for the record, and you have 10 minutes.
Great. First off, I'd like to thank the planning staff, the clerk's office, and the community council for hearing this application and doing a great job of innovating during this pandemic to hold a virtual public hearing. My name is Michelle Cleary. My residence is 6583 Quinpool Road, Halifax, and I'm the owner and operator of Maple Tree Montessori Preschool, which is in its 18th year of operation. We've been at this Quinpool campus for 8 years now. When we moved here, our neighbors were very happy that we took what was becoming an increasingly dilapidated building that was rented out to 12 university students and turned it into a lovely preschool and family home. We've made significant improvements to the building and to the property over the last 8 years. At the Quinpool campus, we currently have a license for 14 children every day, which is allowed under our residential zoning in the Halifax Peninsula land use bylaw. With this development agreement application, I'm simply applying to add 6 more children for a total of 20 preschool students. Our space already meets all of the provincial requirements to allow for this number of children, so we will not be doing any renovations or additions if you approve our development agreement. As the proposed development agreement requires to provide a greater buffer for our neighbors' enjoyment, the only thing we still need to do is build a taller fence between our backyard and our neighbor's property. We've already built a screen around the garbage, compost, and recycling area. As you likely are aware, there is a great need for high-quality childcare throughout Halifax and the regional plan, and the center plan encourages more in-home daycares in residential neighborhoods to accommodate this need. Since we are a relatively small preschool and almost all of our students come from the surrounding neighborhood, most of our students are able to walk here. As well, we have 2 major bus stops just across the street and about 100 feet away. As you'll see in the traffic impact statement, there will be no significant change in traffic by adding 6 more children. It is my belief that children need and deserve more home-based childcare options, as it helps to create a more natural environment for them to explore, learn, and grow. I hope that you will look favorably upon my application, and I'm happy to answer any questions that you may have. Thank you for hearing my application.
Thank you, Michelle. Councillor Walker has a question.
Okay.
Thank you. And my question is on the fence at the back. Would you have any objections to being a fence plus vegetation, or just one or the other?
Currently, Councillor Walker, there already is vegetation in the backyard space. It's a fairly heavily treed area, and there already are 2 trees and bushes planted on that back fence area. So to plant anything more would, I mean, we could, but it would make the backyard have no sun at all, which isn't highly desirable. And we'd have to, it could happen. I'm not saying it couldn't, but there's already a fair bit of vegetation there. And currently the preschool doesn't operate during the summer months. That may change down the road, but for the months of July and August, the preschool's closed for the summer. If that makes a difference.
No, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? So, Michelle, I guess you're saying that it just wouldn't be practical to have vegetation as well. Is that basically it?
Well, there's so much there already.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, we could, but we'd have to dig something out in a significant way to make room to put something new in. And there already is quite a bit there. Yeah, I think with the taller fence, which we're very happy to put in, and already the existing trees and bushes there, I think that will make a significant difference.
Okay, so adding more was just a lateral move, wouldn't it? Dig something out, put something in.
I think so, yes.
Yeah. Okay, Councillor Smith. Councillor Smith has a question. Councillor Smith.
Sure.
Thank you, Chair. Really quickly, so we heard from the presentation that only one neighbor wrote in to us. I'm just wondering if you've heard anything from other neighbors, and either in the past or regarding your application.
No, I haven't. People have stopped to chat when I've been out gardening to ask about our application, and I've been very transparent about it, about adding the 6 spaces. And everyone's been tremendously supportive. I mean, all we've done since we've moved in here 8 years ago is bring the property back to its beautiful, state. It was in pretty bad shape. So I think everybody's very happy, and everybody's been tremendously supportive of it.
Great, thank you.
Beautiful. Any other questions? Okay, thank you, Ms. Clary.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, no one has signed up to speak, and Madam Clerk, that basically eliminates any opportunity for someone to speak on this either by video or by phone. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay, so do we want anything for our staff for Cameron to come back and speak about? Do we need any other questions answered from him? Okay, I will ask that we have a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
Councillor Zarowski, and that's seconded by Councillor Walker. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, Council, what is your wish? We have a motion on the floor.
I'll put it on, Mr. Chair, if you'd like.
Thank you, Councillor Zarowski.
Sorry, my mic took too long.
Lindell, would you like to put it on the floor since it's neighboring your district? I'll go ahead.
You guys are like those two
that
chipmunks
Halifax and West Community.
You're like those 2 chipmunks on Bugs Bunny. Someone put the motion on the floor. Come on.
It is recommended that Halifax and West Community Council 1 give notice of motion to consider the proposed development agreement as set out in attachment A to allow an expansion from 14 to 20 children for the Child Care Center located at 6853 Quinpool Road and schedule a public hearing. Number 2, above, approve the proposed development agreement, which shall be substantially the same form as set out in attachment A. And 3, require the agreement to be signed by the property owner within 200 days or any extension thereof granted by council on request of the property owner for the date of final approval by council and any other bodies as necessary, including applicable appeal periods, whichever is later. Otherwise, this approval will be void and obligations rising hereunder shall be at an end. So moved.
Okay, thank you. So, Madam Clerk, I don't think the first part was necessary. That was just to set a date and give notice.
That's correct. That
Okay,
was
so-
done back in February.
Right
So it
on.
would just
So,
be the
2 and 3.
second and third.
right on. Okay, that cool, Richard?
That is cool.
Okay.
You don't require me to read it again.
Oh, please no. Okay,
No.
so, any discussion?
Call for the question.
Question being called for. Thank you, Councillor Smith. All in favor? Oh, we got to go through the roll. Okay. Councillor Smith,
4.
Councillor Walker,
4,
Councillor Zarowski,
4.
with a thumb up, and for the record, I am for this as well. So 4 and 0 against, approved unanimously. Thank you. And thank you, Cameron. Good job. Correspondence, Madam Clerk.
Yes, Mr. Chair, we have received correspondence for item 511, the case that we just heard. This correspondence was circulated to Community Council.
Okay, and is Councillor Clary back yet?
I have not seen him rejoin the meeting at this time.
Okay, we'll carry on. Any petitions for Community Council? None? Excellent. There's Mr. Cleary. Hi, Sean. You have any petitions?
I do not.
Okay, great. Thank you. 7.1.1, case 22288, development agreement for a commercial recreation use at the south corner of Prospect Road and McGrath's Cove Road, McGrath's Cove. Councillor Walker.
thank you, Mr. Chair. The Halifax and West Community Council give notice of motion to consider the proposed development agreement. So in attachment A of the staff report dated July 2nd, 2020, to permit a development agreement for a commercial recreation use, low impact campground on approximately 19 hectares, 47 acres of land located at south corner of Prospect Road and McGrath Cove Road, and schedule a public hearing. I so moved.
Thank
Second,
you, Councillor Walker.
Cleary.
Councillor Clary seconds that. Thank you. Any discussion? All in favor? Well, I got to go
Aye.
through the roll again. I'm
Yes.
sorry. Hang on. Councillor Smith. You had to say it for the record. And
You're on mute.
I
You're
know.
on mute. Okay, there you go.
My computer is like, I gotta get it swept or something. It's taking forever, but I'm for it.
Well, it's working all right now. You blame a defenseless
It-
computer. So,
It takes forever.
Councillor Clary,
Yes.
Councillor Walker,
4,
Councillor Zarowski.
I am for.
Thank you. And Councillor Adams is for as well. Thank you, Councillor Walker. Next item, 7.1.2, case 22190, development agreement for 11 Osprey Drive, Shed Bay. Councillor Walker.
that the Halifax West Community Council give notice of motion to consider the proposed development agreement, severed in attachment A of the staff report dated February the 25th, 2020, prevent a 16-unit of senior citizens housing at 11 Osprey Drive, Shed Bay, and schedule a public hearing. And so move.
Okay,
Second,
it's
Councillor Cleary.
moved.
Second.
Well, we'll let Councillor Zarowski second this one. Thank you, Councillor Zarowski. Any discussion? Okay, on the motion, Councillor Smith.
4.
Right on. Councillor Clary,
Yes.
Councillor Walker,
4,
Councillor Zarowski.
For.
Thank you, Richard. Thank you. And Councillor Adams votes for as well. 7.1.3, case 21730, development agreement for 205 Bedford Highway, Halifax. Councillor Walker.
the Halifax West Community Council give first reading, consider the proposed development agreement consider an attachment A of the permit of an 8-story mixed-use development at 205 Bedford Highway. That includes 18 affordable housing units, and schedule a public hearing if so moved.
Second,
moved.
Councillor Cleary.
Oh, look at that in there. So thank you, Councillor Walker.
Enthusiastic
Councillor
second.
Cleary seconds. Any discussion? Okay, on the motion, Councillor Smith,
4.
Councillor Cleary,
Yes.
Councillor Walker,
Or
Councillor Zarowski,
4.
Councillor Adams, 4 as well. That's 5, another unanimous vote. Thank you.
and Mr. Chair,
Yes.
is there any way we can schedule that public hearing for the 11th of August, which is our next community council meeting?
So Councillor Walker, or Mr. Chair, through you to Councillor
Yep.
Walker, we have explored that. However, we do have another public hearing scheduled for that date that was given first reading in on June 17th, and we are only holding one public hearing per meeting at this time. We have a proposed public hearing date that we have confirmed with staff of August the 26th.
And if things change and we're allowed 2 public hearings, is there any way it could be moved up?
We could explore and work with staff on that. We also need to take into consideration the notification time period as well, but I will work with staff to see if we
All right.
can make something happen.
It shouldn't be a large public hearing, so I'll leave it at that.
Okay. Thank you, Councillor Walker. Thank you, Krista. Anything else? Okay. Move to adjourn by whom? Aha, Councillor Cleary under the water. Right on. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Krista. Have a good night, everyone.
Thank you, Mr.
Good
Chair.
night.
Thank you, colleagues.
Bye.
Thank you, staff.